Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Bold TV.
Happy Friday to all of you, and happy holiday weekend, I guess.
Happy 4th of July.
Yeah, happy 4th of July. For those of you watching the firework, let's get to what happened this week. First up, most of you are probably watching this show now on Instagram or Facebook. While you scroll, you may be seeing fewer ads.
Yeah, so hundreds of well-known brands are boycotting Facebook and Facebook-owned Instagram by stopping their advertising on social media. Some of these brands include Ben & Jerry's, Coca-Cola, Verizon, Disney. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah, the list goes on and on. A group called Stop Hate for Profit started the boycott, calling Facebook and Instagram to police their platforms and limit hate speech.
And even though billions of dollars are at stake here, Mark Zuckerberg has already come out and reassured Facebook employees that those advertisers, they're going to come back, Julia.
Yeah, and the question is, will our viewers in the future scrolling through our shows see some of these ads coming back?
So I've seen two versions of this. Some people say, hey, look, Starbucks and Verizon and Levi's. I mean, these are America's biggest brands, right? I've heard two rumors. One is that they were going to cancel advertising anyway because of Corona, and that they're using this opportunity
as an excuse.
Right. And the other one is that this is a real concerted effort to hold Facebook accountable.
Yeah. And that both would make sense. I think in the second scenario, you know, everybody's saying, oh my God, too much hate speech. And while we collectively cannot agree on the definition of hate speech.
We don't know.
Right. Some people think all lives matter is hate speech. Some people think Black lives matter is. I mean, it depends
we live
on
in
what
a
you
divided
believe.
country.
I know, divided society. But, you know, most people would say, oh, yeah, they're not doing enough. So it's just sticking
and you've seen the news of Twitter applying warning labels to Trump's tweets and them saying that they're biased against conservatives and yada, yada, yada. So anyway, we'll leave that for another day. Meanwhile, while you weren't looking, the job numbers came in and they were actually really good. We saw 4.8 million jobs added in June as states continue to open up, despite coronavirus, you know, concerns in my home state of Florida. But employment amidst this second wave, or whatever you want to call it, is rising faster than expected. Yeah,
so right now, I think the unemployment rate's still above 11%, and that is near historic high.
That's very high, folks.
It's lower than people thought, but it's still horrible.
Yeah, it's horrible. So we're praying that obviously, you know, the new coronavirus fears in states like California, Texas, Florida, Arizona, Georgia, South Carolina, Arkansas, Idaho, Utah, the list goes a mile long. There's about 16 states right now that are subject to mandatory quarantine. So if Julia and I are in New York, if we go to those states, we're mandatorily obliged to quarantine for 14 days upon our return to New York.
And while some states are opening up and COVID cases are rising, so we still have to wear masks in public, and I personally think that's a good practice, a responsible practice. Some states, watch out this, are handing out fines if you don't wear masks.
Yeah, in fact, in New Mexico, you could be fined up to $100. In Savannah, Georgia, you could be fined $500, and in California, anywhere from $150 to $300, and over in my hometown of Miami Beach, Florida, it's $50. Which sounds like a nuisance to most people in Miami Beach. $50.
In Miami Beach, $50. Like,
there's a lot of wealthy people quarantining on Miami Beach. $50.
But in New Mexico,
$500 now. That's serious.
See, stores that don't enforce the mask rules can also receive citations, right? And for all of you, if you don't want to wear a mask and just want to stay home, watch out because changes are coming to your streaming services too.
So none of us can cut the cord these days, Julia, because we're bored to tears. But while you weren't looking, YouTube TV, which is of course owned by Google, raised their prices by 30%. But they did add a bonus. They added several more stations to the bundle that all of us like BET and ESPN. And if you remember from last year, if you're a subscriber, Hulu Plus and Sling TV both increased their prices. So can we really cut the cords these days, or we just have to, you know?
I mean, I never even considered that question because I never owned a TV. So there was no cord. No, I don't own a TV. Like, I watch ESPN.
Oh, the irony, a TV host who doesn't own a TV.
Like, TV is a generic term nowadays, which means you're a gamer. But, like, I never own a TV, so it was never a problem.
But you have Netflix, right?
Oh, I have Netflix. I binge watch Netflix all the time.
On your computer?
On my computer. And I watch ESPN. I watch all the other channels. I'm looking forward to watching the Hamilton animation movie.
So you're a Disney Plus subscriber too?
Yeah, so I subscribe to everything, make sure I don't miss anything, and then...
So you're a cord cutter, but you're still subscribing to all these services?
Yes, I'm still subscribing to all these services. And to me, I don't feel nowadays it's a matter of choosing between cutting cord or not cutting cord, because people, our age and younger, I mean, everybody's online, not on the...
My parents have YouTube TV.
Of course,
they don't have
no matter
cable
how
anymore.
old you are,
They got tired of being bullied by companies that have bullied all of us.
So it's a matter of, do you want to have Disney Plus and Netflix and Hulu? Do you want to have everything together? Or, some of my friends, everybody pays for one service, you just share the password.
I'm one of those idiots that pays for it all.
You can do it.
So anyway, we have a special treat for you today. We have an in-studio guest, which is very rare these days.
Nowadays. Yeah, nowadays.
Yeah, so our first guest is Nat Remy. She's from NYCE Companies. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, great to have you. Look, we've been talking about this racial inequality all month, all, quarter long. And then what do you think are some obstacles that young people of color face that are maybe not apparent for other people when they're trying to build something meaningful?
That's a great question. I think one of the biggest obstacles that young people face, especially young people of color, is fundraising. A lot of times companies or VCs may not necessarily support people of color, and that seems to be one of the biggest obstacles, especially women of color are facing these days. Women, for example, are their companies are least funded in the VC space, but women of color receive even less than that.
But what's odd is that actually black women have very high levels of entrepreneurship, but they don't have access to funding. So this is a bizarre conundrum.
Absolutely. I think one of the reasons for that is the corporate environment is not very supportive of black women. A lot of times there's not a lot of women of color in leadership positions, and although companies might promote a diversity and inclusive environment, that's often not really represented in the leadership roles, and that's
people
really,
who actually make the decision.
Exactly, and that's very important. It's really important to see yourself, like representation matters. So it's really important to be part of an organization that's inclusive, but not only in just what they're promoting, but also in the opportunities and opportunities for growth.
Yeah. Then you said, we all know that African-American women probably out of all, gender ethnicities have the least amount of prospect in terms of fundraising. But say if I'm an African-American man versus I'm a woman of, another skin tone, which one has it better?
Well, I would say the male might have a better chance, and that's just specifically because a lot of times the males in different environments can they have a better chance of connecting, and because there's not a lot of women in leadership positions, sometimes the males may not be able to relate to issues that impact women.
I think a lot of people don't understand fundraising, though. I think it's something that's very confined to New York and San Francisco. And for everyone else out there, can you explain to us how that works and how the new economy really requires you to raise money from a very small number of people who give out said monies?
Yeah. So, for example, with our company is NYCE Companies, and essentially what we are is a real estate development firm, and what we focus on is luxury high-rises. And before we launched our campaign, one of the things that we did was conducted a lot of research. And the real cool factor about what we're doing is our mission to create 100,000 millionaires of color. And while we were building out this campaign, the research we conducted, we realized that the absence of real estate ownership is the #1 driver behind the racial wealth gap.
That's literally people who own their homes, their kids are more likely to go to college, they're in better health. Homeownership is everything.
Correct. So for us, with any kind of fundraising campaign, there needs to be a why. Why are you doing this? If you're fundraising to support your business, there needs to be something that you're doing that that's important, and that's really how that's really what fuels most fundraising campaigns. There needs to be a bigger reason behind it, and our mission is is what's really important, and that's what's really fueling some of the progress that we've made. But in terms of fundraising, it comes down to finding a relatable audience, and that could just be VCs as well. But it's important for you to connect with people one-on-one, because at the end of the day, you are talking to human beings. And in order for you to raise capital, the person that you're pitching your company to and or your ideas needs to be able to relate to you and understand.
See themselves in you.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly. So my advice for any kind of fundraising campaign, you need to figure out what your why is, determine what that is, and go out and find people who are passionate about that why, because then the sell is easy. You don't even have to go into, the sell becomes a lot easier once the person really understands and can relate to you.
Yeah, see, you talked about the wealth gap, which we have talked about on, various shows. Do you think we're on a path to close the wealth gap? Because let's face it, some people don't want it to be closed.
That's really true. I think we are on a path. If you watch the media right now, everyone is more aware of what's happening and more conscious about race or systematic racism, for example. So I think we're definitely on a path to closing it. It's going to take quite some time. But the first thing is awareness. And I think, especially with everything that's happened throughout 2020, we've built so much awareness about systematic racism and inequality. And that's really the first step. Once we have awareness, then we can start to determine what some of the solutions might be to overcome this issue.
And a lot of it's economic, like you're
Absolutely.
mentioning. An ownership society is totally different. When you have skin in the game and you
Exactly.
own property, you view the world quite differently, don't
Exactly.
you?
If you're the boss, then it's very hard for you to be evicted from your building, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create more owners, especially helping with women, helping with Black and Brown, millennials, and Gen Zs. And it's really because this is a demographic of individuals that are often left on the outside of opportunity. So it's really important for us to create those opportunities, and that really starts with assets, creating real estate ownership assets and providing them with access to assets. Yeah. And then education is a big component of what we're doing at NYCE. Part of that is spreading financial literacy, because it's one thing to make money, but you also have to know how to manage it and grow it.
It's not, you have to be literate.
Exactly.
So we're out of time. Where do we find out more about you and NYCE?
So the quickest way to learn about us is through WeFunder. It's wefunder.com/NYCE. And if you go on there, you'll learn tons of information about what we're doing and find ways to contribute to the campaign. Essentially what we're doing is we're helping particularly women and people of color become co-owners of real estate. And you can invest in some of our properties for as low as $500.
Great. Well, thank you for the work that you do.
Yeah,
and thank you for
Nat.
coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So our next guest is a business coach, Jill Mccabe. How you doing, Jill? You there?
Hey, Jill.
We don't hear.
We don't hear you. We see you. Oh, there you go. There you go.
Now it's working.
Yeah, see, we're even talking online. Everybody is online. Things are transitioning online, but not everything is necessarily suitable for an online platform. Like for me, if I have something in real life, what's the first thing I should think about if I want to transition this to online?
Well, I had a client really surprised me recently. It was a chef, and he lost his business because of the COVID situation. And we kind of thought, how are we going to get you online? And he started working with me, and he created a teaching and coaching business where he was like teaching these incredible recipes and then live coaching people through Zoom. So sometimes it just takes some creativity and ingenuity to rethink your talents and other people who might appreciate them.
So what is the biggest obstacle from transitioning from, brick and mortar traditional business to an online-based business?
The biggest obstacle for me several years ago is that nobody wanted to work on Zoom.
That's changed.
So the other, I'd say, biggest obstacle, and this might be a surprising one, is people doubting that they have the skills that they can, like, that other people would be interested in. Is that self-doubt, that they don't know enough, that they need to learn more, that they need to go to school. And what I have found is that if you are good at something, even if that's a hobby, you might be surprised. Hobbies can do very, like, teaching businesses do really well online. So, and not everybody wants that big fancy teacher that you're thinking of. Sometimes people want to learn from someone just a few years ahead of them. I think that's the biggest obstacle, David.
Yeah, see, nobody has heard of Zoom 5 years ago. I mean, not nobody. The founder himself,
I didn't know what Zoom was until the COVID. So, just FYI.
What do you think is the next exciting new tech for young people?
Oh, I wish I could answer that question. I really don't know. I'm personally excited about Mighty Networks right now because I love this idea of having like my own little Facebook for my community, for my students, for my clients. But as far as the new tech, I might not be the person to answer that question.
Oh, that's okay.
No, it's okay. That's a tough question. Tell us about the book behind you. I see a fancy book there. You wrote it.
Go time.
So I just wrote It's Go Time. It had been, so I wrote it for people who are professionals, coaches, basically people who sell their talent, freelancers, artists. And I didn't think that there was a business model for how to grow your business when your product is your talent, your time, your imagination. And so I wrote it.
Well, that's a big deal. You know, hats off to you. So where can we find out more about you, Jill?
You can find out more about me on my website, www.JillMcCabe, MCABE.com. And you can even get a free copy of my book there.
Oh, really? Free? Wow.
Yeah, it's my publisher's. Come get it now.
Well, Jill, thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Thanks for joining us.
Seems like you were ahead of the curve in predicting the migration to online, so hats off to you. So anyway.
Yeah, how many hours do you Zoom these days?
Oh my God, way too many.
Do I want to know?
It's like a lot.
A lot?
My poor staff lives on Zoom.
Yeah, well, sure.
Yeah, you get out of those Zoom meetings. Somehow you've weaseled your way out of our Zoom meetings.
Because I have 10 jobs, thank you.
Yeah, you have to 10. I only have 3, you have 10.
Yeah, I mean, I have not heard of Zoom, 5 years ago. I mean, I've heard about it because, somebody's friends, whatever, uses it, but it was never like a prevalent thing. And just crazy how COVID changed everything.
So speaking of how COVID changed everything, our next guest, Amy Porterfield, is going to tell us how to use your contacts to grow your reach in your business. Hi, Amy. How you doing?
Hey, Amy.
Hey there. How you doing? So glad to be here.
I want to ask you, first of all, how do you even start an email list?
Like my mom, my neighbor, is that my email list to start off with?
Well, in the beginning, yeah, it is. But then what you do is you start to create original content online. And so on social media, you do live videos, you put some original content out there, you start a blog, you start a podcast, a video show, whatever it might be, you start getting original content out there so people want to listen to what you have to say. You become that go-to source. That's one of the first things you do.
Then why am I using an email list when there's already social media?
So glad you asked. So I always tell my students, don't build your business on rented land, because rented land is social media. And at any given time, the rules of that rented land can change. The algorithm changes, and boom, everything you've been doing doesn't work the same. And so when
Amy, we know all about that. And we don't want to incriminate ourselves because you're watching this on Facebook, Instagram, and other social media sites. But let's just say we're lucky to be alive and here today.
Right, exactly. I agree with that 100%. So what we've seen over the last few months, you cannot rely on social media alone. And so what I always tell my students is, you need to create a lead magnet. A lead magnet is a freebie, a guide, a cheat sheet, a checklist. Keep it simple, a PDF in sorts. And so you create a free lead magnet and you put it out on social media, but you can also put it in the email signature of all your emails. You can be interviewed on a podcast and talk about it. But the goal is to put something so irresistible out there that people can't help but give you their hot commodity, their name and email in exchange for that freebie. And that is how you start to build your email list. And let's just back up a little bit. Why do you need an email list? You need an email list so that you have a captivated audience that when you're ready, you can sell to, you can promote to, you can put offers together, email your list, and they are going to be the ones that are the most loyal, paying attention. You control that email list. You don't own social media.
That's really good advice.
Yeah, see, Amy, look, everybody knows, oh, I need to create something captivating. I want to put you on the spot. Say if David Grasso today, he's going to go on to his appearance on, what was the last show you did, Fox News or
I don't even remember.
If he's going to have a huge appearance tonight, and then he's like, I'm going to blast everybody, or I'm going to tell everybody, what is like the one liner or the magnet that you said that he should use? Can you give me an example?
Yes. So let's say that he's got some kind of freebie, right? That's what you mean? He's created a freebie?
No, like he has a major appearance coming up where he's talking about something very important.
Okay, so here's what's important. If you've got this great appearance coming up, you need a lead magnet so you can say, hey, if you want to learn more about this, I've got this great free guide. Go here to check it out, or go click here and you can get it. So you've got to be able to, it's called the call to action. Tell them what to do next after you share your amazing content on a video or on a blog or whatever. So it's the next thing that you do.
Call to action.
Call to action. Did I understand this right? Because the key word I heard from what you just said is free. Yes. Does that magnet have to be free?
Yes, it does. So the way you grow your email list is first you give before you ever ask for anything in return. Gary Vaynerchuk, who most of us know, wrote this great book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. The right hook is the selling. The jab, jab, jab is give. So definitely it has to be free.
Amy, that seems like good life advice in general.
Right? It really is. Be a good human being and give before you ask for anything in return. We should all be living our lives that way. And it works for social media and list building as well.
Amy, where are you speaking to us from today?
I'm in Carlsbad, California, right outside of San Diego.
Well, that's a beautiful place. I am jealous, but be careful. Stay healthy out there because the numbers are up over there.
Yeah.
Yes, I will. Thank you so very much, guys.
All right. Great seeing you today, Amy.
You too. Take care.
That was excellent advice.
Excellent. Yeah.
I might use some of that in our own email list.
Yeah, because the thing is, nowadays, email lists, God, everybody has one. But not everyone is using it right. I get so many emails, and sometimes it's like, what the hell is this? I'm sure you have that feeling too.
We all get what the hell emails.
And then there are some emails like, wait, I thought I just unsubscribed to this like a month ago. How come I'm still getting it? So
what was really interesting too is that I didn't realize, especially when COVID happened and the Black Lives Matter movements, like everyone sent me an email about that. Brands that I haven't interacted with for a long time. And what was funny is it was an interesting marketing tool to remind me of who they were.
Yeah, of who they were and where they stand on a particularly poignant social issue.
Oh my gosh, so I'm super excited for our next guest. Yeah. So on Skype, we have the host of Answered on Quibi. Welcome, Cleo Abram. How you doing?
Hey, Cleo.
Hi, guys. Happy to be here.
Hi, Quibi. So cool.
So first, what is Quibi?
Yeah, what is Quibi?
Quibi is a streaming platform that you can watch primarily on your phone. So we create a daily show that is designed to be really friendly and accessible for people when they are, curious about what's going on in the world. Maybe they're stuck at home still in quarantine and they look on their phone and they get an update on a topic that we think is really interesting and important and will make living through this moment just a little bit easier.
Yeah, your show is called Answered, right? What does Answered answer?
Yeah, Answered answers questions about this moment that we're all going through together. Some of those questions are very serious. Is the coronavirus mutating and what does that mean? How do police unions work? Really big topics that rely on explaining complicated systems beneath that particular topic. But also really light topics, things that we think will make your day better and we find really fascinating. I find fascinating personally. So, for example, how do fireworks work exactly? I love fireworks, and we're about to see a lot of them. So what's going on inside of them that makes them explode so beautifully? Things like that we think are important to understand. We are Vox, after all. We're explaining things that we think are really interesting in a highly visual way, but we're doing it every single day. So what is the thing that will make your day better today?
So, Cleo, have any of the answers surprised you? Can you give me like one that was, will blow our heads up?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Just to take the fireworks example, because I think it's relevant to the audience right now, the color blue is particularly hard to get right in a firework, partly because you're projecting onto a blue sky, so making sure that it stands out is a really challenging chemistry experiment, basically, and also because the chemistry of making something explode in that vibrant blue color is really quite difficult. So I spoke to a pyrotechnics expert on how fireworks explode in different colors and what those different colors require from a scientific perspective.
Any others? I want another. Now I'm going to have to start watching this show, Cleo.
Oh, here's another good one that I enjoyed. We made a video on whether or not our pets can get infected with COVID-19. And the answer is, in some ways, yes. I mean, we saw that the tigers at the Bronx Zoo not only could carry coronavirus, but were exhibiting symptoms. They were, I believe, short of breath. At the very least, they were coughing. They've since recovered. They're doing fine. But we learned about which animals COVID-19 can affect and why. And it has a lot to do with the specific receptor that the coronavirus spike protein attaches to in each animal. The short version is your dog or your cat are probably going to be just fine.
That's really good to know.
That's fascinating.
Because when I saw that tiger was positive at the Bronx Zoo, I got nervous. I have to admit.
A lot of people did, yeah.
And Cleo, I mean, is there a question that you really want to answer, but haven't?
Yeah, because there's a lot of questions out there, Cleo, right, that are really hard to answer because the truth is often messy and complicated, etc., and political these days as well.
I mean, everything is being politicized, whether we like it or not.
I think the interesting thing about our show, right, is that we make a video show. And there are lots of things that would just frankly be better as an article, right? You want to turn them around really fast. We need to explain something that is not highly visual. There's no diagram or no specific chart or thing that I would point to and say, look, this is what you need to see in order to understand this topic. And if there's not that visual element of it, we really shouldn't make an episode about it. It would be more efficient and more helpful to the audience, frankly, if we did that as an article. So there are lots of questions. I'm having a hard time thinking of one off the top of my head because I try really hard. We all do to find the visual element to most questions. But there are definitely some questions that are just not video topics.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an excellent answer.
Because I remember during the majority of the lockdown, the question that I heard from my female viewers are, oh my God, my roots are growing out. What do I do? It's like something so simple, something every day. But I think that would be better illustrated with a video. But if you're asking me something we talked about, am I going to get a job like after I graduate because the current situation, the unemployment rate, okay, that may be better illustrated with a chart with an article. So you have to think about that.
Right. I mean, I think what's important about using charts in video is if I can walk through something complicated with you and explain it step by step, and that's better for you as the audience to understand what we're trying to piece together. A chart can be wonderful, a sort of a key visual in some of the stories that we tell. Just to take the example that you mentioned, actually, we did an episode in which I cut my partner's hair because what we were hearing was a lot of people really needed to know the answer to that. And we thought, listen, we cover topics that are really complicated and really hard, but we also can cover topics that are just fun and helpful, and people want to know the answer to them. So I cut his hair. I did an okay job. He was
Well, Cleo, Really, congratulations on a successful haircut. I could never do that. You're a better woman than I am a man. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today, and we look forward to watching your show.
Yeah. Best of luck with hosting the show. It sounds fascinating.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I need to download Quibi.
Okay, I can cut your hair.
No. Everything's open now, folks. Like, I don't need Julia to cut my hair. In fact, our entire team just got haircuts. They're looking pretty good. Okay. Have you gotten a haircut yet?
I did. I look the same after getting the haircut. I'm happy to cut anybody's hair if if you're desperate.
My hair is actually kind of complicated to cut. It's really easy to take care of.
Oh my God.
So yeah, we have our guest on the line. Yes, we do.
Okay, yes, we do. Well, our final guest is here to talk about climate change topic I've talked about repeatedly over the past few years.
Easy
yeah,
topic.
not an easy topic. She is the founder of the Capsule Hackathon, Sarah Sharif.
How you doing, Sarah?
Hi, everyone. Happy to be back.
I see the change shirt behind you.
Yeah, the change shirt behind you. What's that?
Yeah, so I'm also a member of the Upsides. That's just kind of, I always keep it in front of me.
Yeah. Okay, Sarah, well, what are the most promising ideas for climate change that you have seen?
Yeah, so I'm so grateful we had over 400 participants representing 31 different countries come together to really build solutions. The top three, one was called MicroSense, and it was all about a low-cost environmental sensor that looks at your microclimate. So imagine for a second that everyone on the planet was able to track their microclimate and look at all that data over the course of their lives. That would certainly tell a story, and we were really excited about that project. Another one was related to Conservation Portal. We have decades and decades of data on biodiversity, wildlife, air quality, but we don't actually have access to it. So this portal was about, again, increasing visibility and having folks be able to access data through this portal. And the last project that I will just quickly address is that I think every platform right now needs to be new. So we actually had a COVID-19 tracker, which is a project which came out of India, but it was all about predictive technology of when the next outbreaks are going to be and how that also relates to climate.
So tell us about the Capsule Hackathon. Is that what created all of these ideas?
Yeah, so we were originally a 4,000 in-person event, and due to COVID, we made the huge pivot in March to be 100% virtual. While it was great because our carbon footprint vanished, we had to change everything to be remote and virtual. But yes, over 2 days, we had global participants, partners, sponsors like Walmart and Espresso come together and really build these solutions in a 2-day, very intensive design sprint.
Yeah. And Sarah, I believe you and I talked about this, not on this show, but somewhere else, that, what is something that we can all do to be more green, but doesn't take much time out of our day?
Yeah. And, actually, it's so much more than just, being green. I think it's about really empowering people to realize that we all have ideas that could turn into businesses, that there's so many opportunities, whether you're in climate finance, to the fashion industry, to working in technology, there's all these opportunities. So even if it's, looking at entertainment, how do we talk about climate? How do we gamify it so that youth can learn about it? There's so many opportunities. So I know that we talked about that as well. That's where I would get everyone to start.
Yeah, what's really interesting about everything you're saying, Sarah, is that knowledge is power. I hate to sound like reading Rainbow here, but it seems like all of your ideas lead to more information sharing, more cooperation. We have to cooperate or else we're never going to be able to solve this overwhelming problem.
Exactly. And we have to do it at a global scale. I think that was the most tremendous and successful thing that we were able to bring together with Capsule Hack is that we had 57 global partners, H&M, Techstars, Luke Hoffman Institute. We had NASA climate scientists, talking on a panel at our event. But everything was, you're right, about connectivity and the fact that we do have to collaborate, and it can happen at a local scale, a national scale, but really the conversation needs to start being all of us collaborating on a global scale.
Yeah, Sarah, the other saying goes, if it's everybody's responsibility, then nobody is really responsible for it. And unfortunately, from what I see, a lot of people still say, you know, it's not my problem. I mean, I'm not going to live for, you know, another 100 years.
And also, if we cut emissions here, China will make up for it in about 3 hours.
How do you convince everybody to care about this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it just comes back to being very human-centered in our approach. You know, it's not about taking on the climate crisis solo. Again, it's about all of us working together. So it's just bite-sized amounts that we're all contributing. But I think the other thing with this is truly, it's a human right to have clean air and clean water and be able to live a fulfilled life, you know, really deal with extreme weather situations that are a cause of climate change and the crisis, but realizing that we don't have to be losing human lives over this. There are better ways and solutions out there that really encourage us to live that healthier life. So I usually approach it from a very, you know, human-centered approach. How can we impact the air that you breathe, the water that you're drinking, your great-grandchildren, you know, with the work that we're doing?
Well, it's funny. People don't live that long term, but funny enough, Sarah, you said the magic word to me. I was raised by my great-grandmother, so it's actually not that far away. You know, we have to think multi-generationally. Well, thank you so much for the work that you do. Keep in touch.
Yeah, it's so great to see you.
Julia already knows you.
Thank you so much again. I appreciate being here and just sharing the story of what we did. Again, just kudos to everyone that participated. Really grateful for the folks that are driving the movement forward.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate it. So that's the end of the show.
I know. Can you believe it? It went by really quick. Thank you for all watching.
Yeah, so follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll be back soon.
Yeah, Amazon, Firework TV. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot that part of the pitch. Thanks for watching.
Bye. See you back here in 2 weeks.